and welcome to episode 16 of the Lottie and Albert podcast. My name is Lindsay and I am a crochet designer and editor from the Cotswolds in the UK, and I have a croaky voice. Welcome to my podcast all about crochet and crafts. If you are a returning viewer, then thank you so much for coming back with me today. It's so lovely to have you here, and if you are a first time viewer, I hope you don't take me for my croaky voice. Enjoy watching, and yeah, please feel free to give me the thumbs up or to subscribe if you enjoy the podcast today. So Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year if you're watching this in real time. It is the 30th of December, so we have had Christmas and we are rapidly approaching 2018. I have had a really wonderful Christmas. It really doesn't feel like 2 weeks since I last saw you. It feels like yesterday. Probably because just of how much has happened and how busy we have been with general Christmas festiveness. Today I will be using any words, possibly not real words. You may have noticed my friend. I will come to him in a minute, and because I'm going to be talking about finished objects, works in progress, new things, which includes all my Christmas goodies, and I'm going to be giving another update on the Little Hearts for Grace crochet along, or CAL, which has nearly been running for a month now, so that will be popping up towards the end of the podcast. I have quite a lot to show you, not least a giant amigurumi character. So shall we start with him, the elephant in the room, or the dragon in the room? Last time that I podcast, which was 2 weeks ago, this little guy just had a head. Do you remember him? He's giant. These were presents that I made for my children for Christmas. This is Gertrude. Can't even fit him in the camera. This is Gertrude, the dragon. Every time I speak I want to call it a dinosaur on this podcast. And he is from the book Animal Friends of Peek-a-Pow by Jan Schenkel. What I have done, you may note, he is quite large. I've made him in super chunky yarn. So if you make him in DK yarn or sport weight yarn, they're going to come out more sized, around this big. This is what happens if you make him in super chunky. Ta-da! But yeah, I adore him. These spikes took a long time to sew on. Yes, they did. I originally started these because I wanted to, because I bought the book and I love the animals in them, and I think it's quite fun to play with scale when you're doing amigurumi, so I wanted to make them giant. I also had about 3 balls of this yellow Mariner super chunky in my stash, so I thought, hey, that would be a good way to use up 3 balls of yarn. It took me about 7 of the yellow and then another of the pink and the grey, and I mean, arguably this now takes up a little bit more space than 3 balls of yarn, but my little boy loves him more so than I actually expected them to. I made another one as well for my little girl, which I will show you now. This one is possibly even bigger. So on the podcast last time, I'd started this one and started its nose. This is the unicorn. And he is really, I don't know if you can tell, he's really fluffy. So for the dragon, I used super chunky. For the unicorn, I didn't have any white in super chunky, so I decided, obviously I have 2 children, they have to be roughly the same size because there will be war otherwise. And so to get the unicorn approaching the same size, I actually ended up holding 4 yarns together. So I used a worsted cotton, a white DK, I think this is actually a sparkly 4-ply, it's the Baby Brilliance by McGrath, and I held an eyelash yarn as well, but I did actually run out of all the white eyelash yarn that I had, so I don't know if you can tell, is one of his ears here, all kicking the table. He's so large, all fluffy. And then his other ear, it sort of runs out of fluff halfway through. And that was it. That was the end of the eyelash yarn. And I mean, this would maybe annoy some people a lot. It doesn't really bother me. My kids aren't going to notice. It's got a little fluff. It looks like it's been shaved or something. Been to the vets. The only other thing that happened with this guy, who's so fluffy and sparkly, is, I mean, the wings are tiny, and they're supposed to be tiny, but one is much tinier than the other. So I definitely went wrong at some point. So he's got like one half fluffy ear and also one little wing, which is much smaller than the other one. So he's a little bit like Nemo, if anybody's watched Finding Nemo. Yeah, his head is a little bit on the wobbly side. Oh, but I was making them right up until about 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve. So I was like, there's time for me to sew his head on more firmly. That will just have to do. His cheeks even nearly didn't go on because I was slightly fed up by this point and I was making right to the wire, and my poor husband was, well, we say poor husband. My husband was being a trooper with our other wrapping, which we still hadn't done, right up to the last minute. I just crocheted because they had to be finished, right? Yeah. I do really love actually the sewing part of amigurumi. I know that's some people's worst part, but I really like seeing them come together, and I think that's when their character comes in. So I decided I will put the cheeks on because they're kind of one of the cutest parts, aren't they? The tail, I used like Mariner Mermaid yarn, I think it's called, which was a chunky yarn, held with another chunky yarn, which was pale pink. And I felt that that was a good unicorn mane. I also definitely haven't sewn this on. This should be like closer to here, but what can you do when you're Christmas crafting at 10 PM on Christmas Eve? Some things take a hit. So he's got yellow feet. I was actually slightly worried in that, if you've watched before, you will know my daughter loves yellow. I made this guy thinking that, yeah, they're so big. They're so big. Thinking that he would be for my son. I mean, I don't mind. They can obviously both play with both of them. But then I suddenly thought, or my husband pointed out, or somebody pointed out, isn't your daughter going to want this one because it's yellow? And when I put them out on Christmas Eve, ready for the morning, I meant to attach labels to them, or at least a big R and a C, because Rosie's nearly 4 and she can read her name. She can't read everything, but she can read her name. And she knows what a C, curly cuff for Charlie, looks like too. And I just forgot. But luckily, on Christmas Day, they went in and she went straight for the unicorn, which was lucky because that was the one on her pile of presents. So yeah, the unicorn obviously won out. She has recently added pink to her repertoire and decided that pink is her second favourite colour. So perhaps that's why, or perhaps it's just because he's so fluffy and sparkly. Yeah, eyelash yarn held with other things is a lot easier to use than eyelash yarn on its own. And this is just one strand and actually makes it super fluffy. So definitely recommend that. The beauty of amigurumi is you can make the same pattern with a smaller or larger hook. You just mix up your hook size and your yarn weight, then you can end up with giant amigurumi animals too, if you want them. And really, it's the same number of stitches, so it's not particularly more work. Arguably harder on the hand, this one. And I did have to use a lot of stuffing, probably nearly 3 bags of stuffing and the contents of 1 pillow. And having said that, I butchered an old pillow. I think I mentioned last time that I was thinking about doing that, because often pillows, if they're not feather, they get all that kind of lumpiness, don't they? And they're not really great for pillows anymore, so you can use them for stuffing. Top tip. Not a top tip if you have 5 people staying over on Christmas Day because you sort of need your pillows. So I had to go and buy more pillows from the shop. Possibly would have been easier if I just bought more toy stuffing, but never mind. So these are my finished objects for this episode. These are the only finished objects, and this is all you're getting, and you will be happy with this, because if 2 giant amigurumi animals is not enough finished objects for you, you might need to move on, folks. This is a lot for me. This is a lot of crocheting. Somebody commented on a post of them on Instagram and said, oh my goodness, like, I swear a minute ago you only had a head. Yeah, that's right, I did only have a head last time. A lot of love went into these guys, but I'm really happy because they have actually received a lot more love than I thought they would from my kids. I thought that they would be a novelty factor because of their size. I'm going to try and put him up here, but yeah, I'm a bit surprised by quite how much playtime they have received. My little boy likes to sit on this one, as you would if you were nearly 2 and somebody gave you a giant dragon to ride. That's what it's for, no? So that is my finished object. I forgot to say what I'm wearing. If you've watched before, you will recognise this is my Frank and Olive box jumper. It's very boxy. This is a really easy and nice pattern that I made when I was in Japan from yarn bought in Japan, parallel yarn. I've no idea of the composition, but it's got these fun little bubbles all the way through it. So I've got a bit of a cold, and so it felt like a snuggly grey jumper day today. Do you have certain colours that you are drawn towards more? I feel like the camera is not helping me. On different occasions, if I'm feeling tired or like I want to be snuggly, cozy, grey, especially grey marl is just my go-to. If I go shopping and I'm feeling a bit under the weather, which to be honest I don't really do that much anymore anyway, but I end up going home with like variations on 3 grey jumpers. Very adventurous, but it's okay because I can use colour in crochet, right? I am going to move on to move this off the table and wobble it. I'm going to move on to works in progress, of which I have a few, as always, really, as always. One of the things that I have picked up again recently is my Atomic Flowers blanket, which I'm making for my little girl because I've started joining it. I haven't picked this up in a few weeks, really, a month or so maybe, and I just had the urge the other day. I had sort of half blocked some of the squares and I just thought, you know, I'm just going to start it. I've ended up joining it using join as you go method, which basically means you have your square the stage before its final row. I'll show you an example in here. That's not a good example because they're joined together. So these are the centres. I've then squared them off by putting 1 row of stitches around here and then just 1 row of trebles. And then when they're at this stage, I've started attaching them to the rest of the blanket. So you essentially join on here and then work trebles all the way around, and where you meet the edges of other stitches, you're slip stitching into this row. So it gives you this slightly raised bar down here. But actually for this blanket, I think that's quite pretty, it's quite nice. Obviously the alternative, and well, there are loads of alternative joining methods, but one of the main alternatives would be to work another row of trebles here, to do that on all of your squares, and then hold them together and either single crochet or sort of slip stitch with them right sides together, which would, you'd then have to work all your rows in rows and then join all your rows into columns. I'm sure a lot of you have made blankets before. Let's not try and make this a tutorial. But yeah, if you look up join as you go methods, if you haven't heard of that before, then it's quite a nice way if you get a bit daunted by getting all your blocks to a finished point and then joining them. It's quite a nice way to break up the process, because what it means is I've still got a stack of centres like this, but in theory I could do their final rows, square them off, and then add one to the blanket, and you could maybe do one of those each day, and then it sort of breaks it down a bit more. And if you hate, say, the joining stage or like the last white stage you find boring, then it's a nice way of breaking it up. So yeah, at the moment I've gone 5 rows wide, and I'm going to probably keep it about 5 rows, and then hopefully it's going to be about 7 deep, and then I'm going to put quite a thick white border on. I think that's my plan. So it'll be a sort of single bed size, but just like a sitting on top of the single bed, not going over the edges. Probably will be used more across the end of the bed, but it'll be like a little snuggly blanket for my nearly 4-year-old. The light goes really weird when I do that, sorry. For my nearly 4-year-old to enjoy. So yeah, this was all made of scrap yarn that I had, hence all the different colours. I have been trying to just pull them out of the bag randomly and attach them, rather than being precious about the colour order. We'll see how that goes. Look at all my ends. And this is a free pattern that I have on my blog called the Atomic Flowers blanket. I actually originally made it for a Hobbycraft blog. It's a free pattern, it's still up there. And I used massive, super chunky yarn. And I joined it, I didn't do these extra rows around the flowers. I just joined it almost at the, is it the apex? At the highest point on the flowers. So I will try, if anybody's interested, and you would want to know how to do the extra rounds, I can try and write that up too. I must admit, on a wider note, I'm struggling a little bit with my crochet and knowing which angle to take it in the respect that I know what I know what I like to make, and I kind of go through phases. Every now and again I really just enjoy making other people's patterns, just following the instructions, maybe playing around a little bit with yarn or size, but there's something quite nice to get a pattern, get your yarn, follow it and make it. And then I go through other phases where all I want to do is swatch and experiment and try new techniques and write my own patterns. But the reality is I also have children, I also work, and so I'm struggling to find the time to write up all the things that I say I'm going to write up, or to do the patterns that I say I'm going to do. And the appeal of having more patterns out there, and also, you know, being able to sell the patterns and make a little bit of money out of what is essentially a hobby, is really appealing to me. But the time that it takes is just not as accessible. So I'm like, I was talking to my mum about it yesterday, and I said I really had it in my head that I wanted to release at least 1 pattern a month. And she was like, 1 pattern a month? She was like, why don't you go for 1 every 6 months? I said, 1 every 6 months feels like nothing. She was trying to give me a bit of a reality check, and I mean, there is nothing wrong with me just making for myself, is there? I could just make for myself and not release any patterns. But I know that I will get bored of that and then want to release patterns. So I think really. I just need to stop being so hard on myself and just do what I can do. Try and be realistic. But there are obviously other priorities in my life that come first before crochet, so I think I just need to find that balance. And maybe it's since I've started my new job as well, I'm feeling really creatively fulfilled and inspired now by my day job, which is amazing. Almost takes the pressure off the need to be writing patterns and trying to make money that way. So yeah, I think I need to find my happy balance between just selfish crocheting, and then I'm probably quite guilty of doing the actual crocheting is really fun, but then writing out the pattern, doing all the photography, getting the pattern testers, marketing it, promoting it, managing the Etsy, all of that is a bit more like hard work. That's probably the reality of what I'm trying to say. I need to pair up with somebody who likes doing all that side of stuff. Or even sometimes if I could just write the pattern and then somebody else make it, that would be okay. Anyway, this is already written up, this main pattern. And yeah, it would not take me long to also write up how to add the extra rows to square it off. So if you would be interested, let me know. That was a little ramble. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, still got quite a few more squished in this, I say project bag. It's just one of the freebies you get when you buy yarn on Love Knitting or Wool Warehouse or something. But I quite like being able to see what's in a bag. All this smushed up yarn. That is a whip that I've picked up recently. I also have 2 other blanket projects as works in progresses on the go. One is this Lottie and Albert rainbow blanket in neutral, which I showed either last time or the time before. I'm really enjoying this actually, and the weight of it. Normally I make these in pastels. The sun's come out since I've started filming. In pastels or brights, but this one I decided to make in neutrals, and we've got some more of that eyelash yarn. Can you tell I've been stash busting and trying to use up yarn? I've also started making a new Lottie and Albert rainbow blanket with a slightly different twist. See if you can see what it is without me undoing the whole thing. Can anybody tell yet? This is a Lottie and Albert rainbow blanket, but it's not a crochet one. Oh no. This is a knitted Lottie and Albert rainbow blanket. So, same concept. 6 strands of DK yarn wound into a ball, but instead of crocheting it up like this, I'm actually knitting it on 20mm knitting needles. I've just lost my giant yarn ball across the room. So yeah, it's a little bit of an experiment. Is this the right side? I'm using lots of scrap yarn, which is why it's changing colour slightly. I feel like knitting does not look as nice as a whip. Here we go. I'm kind of loving it. So I was looking, obviously, they're different techniques, and I am a beginner knitter, so I probably could have got a more similar look if I had done a knitted rib and almost whacked the blanket on the side. But instead I've just gone for stockinette and garter stocking. I always say stockingette, stocking and garter stitch to try and get, actually seeing them side by side, it's not too bad. It's not too shabby, folks. So yeah, this is a knitted version. I love this sort of raised chunkiness that you get from the garter stitch against the flatter stocking stitch. We've got a little bit of a curly bottom here. And yeah, this is what's happening. I've nearly finished the ball. So it's going to have pom-poms in the same way. And I can write it up if anybody wants it. What's wrong with me? I don't know if anybody is watching this that is a knitter and not a crocheter, and I know that may sound weird to some people, but I actually watch knitting podcasts even though I say I'm not a knitter. Clearly I am now doing some knitting, but I'm not a knitter. I do not know how any advanced techniques at all, but I still enjoy watching knitting podcasts because, you know, they're talking about yarn and patterns. I watch quite a few of the kind of indie dyer ones. This would make an awesome jumper. And so I suppose it's feasible that there might be some knitters who watch this. Probably not. Probably most of you might knit as well as crochet, but if you fancy making one and you don't want to do the crochet one, there will soon be a knit one available. So there we go. I really have just used, I've tried to keep it a pale green, a pale yellow, a pale pink, a more vintage pink, a pale blue and a pale purple. But interestingly, even just changing up one or two yarns gives you such different colour change and variation. It's a little bit like painting when you've got 6 yarns, because just adding in a more limey green instead of a mint green and a paler lilac instead of a darker purple gives you such a different wash in the colours. So there we are. Obviously when I do the pattern it will be based on the same kind of quantities as this, so either 6 balls, which this is, or 12 balls, 18 balls, etc, etc. You don't have to use scrap yarn and have it all different colours like in this sample, but hey, I was trying to be good and not buy new yarn. And one thing, once I have the pom-poms on, that's what makes it really, with these blankets, all the different coloured pom-poms. So there we are, 1, 2 and 3 blanket projects, no less, on the go. This one is pretty much just waiting now. I finished my unicorn, for me to gather together what yarns I have left, and I felt like last time I picked it up it seemed really small and I wasn't sure if it was really big enough yet, but now I'm looking at it again, it's not too far off. I think it could do with an extra 4 or 5 rows maybe, so I'll see if I can get that. This one is all different kinds of scrap yarn, but it hasn't actually had a colour change or anything in it, so I'd quite like to keep it looking consistent if I can. And then pom-poms. I'm going to be making a lot of pom-poms. So there we are, that's another whip. I've also started a Christmas cast on of sorts, a Christmas Eve cast on. If you have been a long time viewer of the podcast, you remember when I went to Yarndale, which is a British yarn festival essentially up in Yorkshire in September, October, that I bought a set of Vicki Brown minis. Vicki Brown is a indie yarn dyer and pattern writer, crochet designer. She also knits as well. Vicki Brown Designs. I've talked about this book before, the Crochet Sock book, because I love it. But I also just really love her yarn. So I think this one was called Candy Cane. This one is called Ombre One, this green. This was like Christmas trees. Just dropped it. Thrown it. And this one I think was Christmas Sprinkles. So what I have started is a pair of socks. Well, I mean, I currently have one sock rather than a pair, but this is what it's looking like. I've gone for a red cuff and then a few rows of red, and then I've moved on to the Christmas Sprinkles. Because I bought, I think it was 5 minis, And then I already had one of her other sock minis from a different set, which is this slightly brighter red here. I've decided to make some mismatched socks. So this sock is going to have this cuff, this is the body, and then it's having a crochet afterthought heel here, which is going to be this colour, and the toe is also going to be this colour. So that will be one sock. And then the second sock is going to have this pale green as the cuff. It's then going to be Christmas sprinkles for the body. And depending on if I have enough of this red, which I used for the cuff, I might then use the red for the toe and the heel. If not, I've got that slightly brighter red in there. So I like my socks to be quite short. In fact, this for me, this will be the heel, and then this is the top. I feel like that is not even that is like just a normal sock height. But when I see people making socks online and on Instagram and other YouTube channels, like people make really long socks. Do you like long socks, or do you? I just feel that if you're going to wear them with trousers, you don't want them halfway up your calf, surely. So this is my preferred length, and happily I have quite small feet. I have size 4 feet. I think that's a 36 in EU sizes, possibly. And so it doesn't really take me that much yarn to crochet socks, even though crocheting socks, I presume, takes up more yarn than knitting socks. So they're going to be mismatched, but tonally, obviously these all go together. So I think it's going to be fun. This yarn is striping really nicely. I almost wish I had 2 of these, because yeah, I'm loving the striped effect. On the skein, it didn't really indicate how it was gonna go. So yeah, this striping is a pretty good outcome. The pattern that I am making these from is these yellow ones here. That's the pattern I'm following. It's in the Vicki Brown Crochet Sock Collection, and it's the Spring Fling socks. Oh, you can see. So obviously Vicki in her pattern has made them in a solid yarn, in one solid colour, but they've got a separate toe section, an afterthought heel, and a separate cuff section. So they struck me as a pattern that would lend itself quite well to using different yarn for different parts of the sock. So that's another whip I have started, using 4-ply sock yarn after making these bad boys. It feels very tiny. It's quite nice to have the change, but yeah, I just feel pretty tiny. We went to, my husband had a Christmas work party in London a few days before Christmas, and we went on the train, and obviously normally a little project like this would be more appropriate, train knit crochet. I took this guy and was crocheting his body on the train. Obviously he wasn't stuffed, but it's still quite large, and on the way to London I wasn't sat by myself. I wasn't sat by my husband because I was going to meet him. I was sat by a stranger. Poor guy had to put up with me doing giant crochet on the train. Mainly because of my deadline and because it was close to Christmas and I needed to finish them. Now I have some little socks in nice dainty 4-ply, which will be much more appropriate for on-the-go crochet. That is about it in terms of my main works in progress. I do also have a little non-crochet one, which I'll show you because I shared it last time. And it is my Love embroidery, which was a gift in Molly Makes issue 87. I work for Molly Makes magazine. This is not a plug. I'm just making it because I really like it. And yeah, it's really nice to do something different for a change. This has become my little evening project. My husband and I tend to both do bath time together with the kids. We both, that makes sense to people who don't have children. And then he will, once they've got their pyjamas on and whatnot, he will read them 2 stories, and then I'll go in and read them 2 stories and tuck them in. So this is the little project that I have been working on, just in the spare bedroom while he is reading his stories, because it's only like 5-10 minutes, but it's not really long enough to do anything else. So a little embroidery project. This is the issue it came from. So yeah, there we go. I have a feeling that the next issue is coming out soon, and there's something I want to tell you about in it, but maybe I should wait until 2 weeks' time. Can't give away any secrets now, can I? So yeah, works in progress. There we go. That's my works in progress. I do feel a little bit like I need a break. After I finished these guys, I was like, oh my goodness, it's so nice not to have to sit and crochet. And then yeah, this is maybe the next day I'm talking about, unboxing day. In the evening I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do some crochet now. It's like my hands don't know what to do themselves unless I'm crocheting. I am a bit run down. I do have a cold. I have had a few nice books for Christmas. I think I might just curl up with a nice book. New things wise, I'll show you a few things that I got for Christmas, and then I'm going to give you a little update on the Little Hearts for Grace crochet along cowl. For Christmas, I received a yarn Swift, hurrah, which I have not brought down with me. It's essentially like a large wooden umbrella that if you have a skein of hand-dyed yarn which has not been wound into a ball and is just loose, you can't knit or crochet from that because you're going to get in such a tangle. So your options are winding them by hand into a ball, which I have done in the past, and it's actually what I did with those little minis that I was showing you. Which is just about manageable if you've got a mini skein, but if you've got, I had a ball winder for a while, so if you can get somebody to help hold your loose skein of yarn, then you can use your ball winder. You basically hook the yarn on, loop it through, turn the handle, and it winds it for you. But unless you've got the yarn Swift, it's quite tricky to hold the skein and turn the handle. So I put a yarn Swift on my wish list, and my sister-in-law very kindly bought me one, and oh my goodness, it's a life changer. Honestly, game changer at least, maybe not life changer. I can now just loop my loose skein of yarn around it, up the umbrella, wind my ball winder, and in minutes you have a ball of yarn. So as you can see, I've then just spent ages winding, not ages, minutes winding all my little scrap bits. So this is what was left of the Lady Runicorn yarn that I used for my rainbow socks. This is what was left of my Vicki Brown, what's it called, Blacklight, that I also made a pair of socks out of. This is what was left of my Oh for Hook's Sake 80s, Not Your 80s Chelsea, I think it's called. Rambling. This is a rambling section, sorry folks. Just look at the pretty yarn, be distracted by the pretty yarn, and don't listen to my words. They're all now in like really cute little cakes, and these were just, yeah, some minis that I had. So I got my yarn Swift, and now I have lots of lovely wound balls of yarn. I also received for Christmas some graph paper. I did ask for it. Some wool needles, very handy, And excitingly, some knit blockers, Knit Pro. So rather than using lots of tiny little pins, get a box like this. Can't get them out. And yeah, there's 4 on these sections and then even more on these larger ones. So particularly good for blankets, looks painful, blankets and garments and larger items. And you can pin out whole sections when you're wet blocking rather than working with loads of fiddly pins. And also I have the excuse that these are much better, I mean providing my children don't get hold of them, much better than using lots of individual pins, because they just always go astray, don't they, individual pins. You can't keep track of them all and you're always losing some, which aren't great for little feet. I also asked for this little handy Addy gauge square. I'm assuming these are for knitting needles, but potentially you can test your crochet hook size against them too. Potentially. We'll try it. I'll try it with ones that do have the number on and see, and let you know. So I asked for kind of more toolsy stuff because, let's be honest, I've got a lot of yarn. And so those are things that I really needed. I needed them. My mum also made me, I was kind of showing it but didn't say, some cute little project bags. She's put a little made with love sticker on. So I've got this one, and then she's made me this bigger one as well, which was really nice of her. And helpful because even though I'm always going on about making project bags, I haven't yet. She bought me, my mum works in a yarn shop and also a fabric shop, The Dream. And so she just gave me a random selection of yarn, which was probably in the reduced bin. Sorry mum, I'm sure that's not true. I'm sure there's a reason that you bought me one ball of special extra large super chunky by Stylecraft. I do love this colour though. Gorgeous colour. I don't know what I'm going to make with that. She bought me, in her defence, it did actually have the ball band on when she gave it me, but it's fallen off. A ball of the head over heels, which is the style, is it still new? Does it still count as new? The Stylecraft sock yarn. And then she bought me some more unusual ones with pom-poms. This pink and this King Cole, what's this one? Tivoli Spiral and King Cole Capri. You see the little pom-poms? So, and they all go really nicely together. And with the project bag. Thanks, Mum. So that was a nice surprise. You can hear clanking around. My husband got me a set of bamboo crochet hooks. They were more, my father-in-law likes to make personalised crackers, and so you have to supply cracker gifts. This is what my husband put in my cracker as a cracker gift. But I mean, it beats one of those mood fish that you get in normal crackers. They're not anything special, but there we go. Noisy crochet hooks. Very handy to have. And he also bought me, which is really sweet, some little stitch markers. One was attached to my sock. I meant to mention it. And it says, shush, I'm counting. He was like, is that a crochet thing? I was like, yes, I'm counting, don't talk to me. And then the other one, if anybody is offended by swear words, close your ears. Actually, I'll cover it up just in case anybody's really offended. It says, F off, I'm crocheting. Which I have not been hard to utter. So I don't know why he bought me that. But it's funny and really sweet because, yeah, he's bought me little stitch markers. Off Etsy, no less. They are by Cat's Designs, if anybody's interested in getting any themselves. My mum also bought me some sock blockers. Yay! I've wanted wooden sock blockers for ages, and she has bought me these. She was like, I didn't know what size to get you, so I got you small and medium. These are the small. was like, oh Mum, you've bought me ones for the kids too. And she was like, no, I just wasn't sure what size to get you. I was like, well, I'm not a child. These are like toddler size. But she also bought me this, so I can't complain too much. So yeah, a pretty good little crochet haul really. And this is a little bag that the stitch markers came in. It says, handmade with love, especially for you, by Cat Designs, with a Z, Etsy. And that's what they came in. So yeah, another little made with love. So I did really well out of my Christmas haul. And actually I'm quite pleased that I didn't get too much yarn because I really buy myself enough. Pop those back in and have a think about what we're going to make with those. This will probably be socks. 100 grams. Very pretty. Maybe I make a pair for everyone. What did you all get? Did you get any crafty bits for Christmas? Did you get any crochet bits? Did anybody get any nice indie dyed yarn? My family are more Amazon gift list shoppers than they are Etsy, but maybe that's my own fault. Maybe next year I can set one up, hook them up, and yeah, point them in the direction of some more indie sellers. Last but not least, while I reach over here, I'm gonna try not to wobble the table. Sorry everyone. I've been sent some more squares for the Little Hearts for Grace crochet along. Thank you so much to anybody who has already sent us a square. I know that December is probably not the best month to launch a calendar because everybody is really busy. We are also running it right to the end of January, so if you find yourself with a little bit of spare time now, and I have had lots of promises of making squares, which is like beyond amazing, so thank you so much. I know lots of people are planning on making them in January instead of December. Just send them whenever. It doesn't matter if you're overseas and you don't make it to the end of January. You know, we'll wait for your squares. If I know there's more squares coming, I'll wait for them because we need more to make a blanket. We need some more. If you haven't watched before, I'm hosting a charity call to raise money for two charities that are close to my heart. A friend of ours, her little girl was born with half a heart. She has received a lot of support from Bristol Children's Hospital, where she's just undergone her third open heart surgery, and also from a charity called Little Hearts Matter, who specialise in advice and helping parents and families who, to them, children are born with half a heart. So we are we have launched 7 patterns, 7 heart patterns, which you can go onto my blog and choose from. If you have any DK weight scrap yarn, it can be cotton or acrylic as long as it is machine washable. Then go onto my blog, have a look at the patterns, see if you fancy making a square, and if you do and you'd like to send it to me, then that would be amazing. If you would also like to put in a donation to the JustGiving account that we have set up, you can find the details for that on there too, along with more details of Grace's story. So I'm shouting at you. This one has come from Sophie. Thank you so much, Sophie. I met Sophie at Yarndale. She really kindly came up and said hello to me. And yeah, we chat a bit online. She has sent in this really pretty square. I love the yarn in the middle. Is that Galaxy? I think it might be one of the Galaxy ones, but I love how that, can you see all the sequins are different colours? Love that. That's the corner to corner square pattern by Emily of Make. Yeah, and that's Sophie of A Spring Snowflake. This one is from Fickle Craft Room. Thank you so much. Did I say these were the ones that came in last week before Christmas? And she has made the Annaboo's house with the really cute little heart motifs on it. Thank you so much, Liz. This one is from the gorgeous Emma of Lulu Loves UK, and I love the yarns that she has used too. Really pretty cotton pastels, and the blue one is sparkly. Can you see? So Emma has made the Kai Dallas Bobble Heart Square, And then, last but not least, of last week's deliveries, these are from Winnie of Winsu on Instagram, and she has made the Jelly Bean Junction 2 Hearts Granny, and she's also made a Kaidalis one as well. And these ones are so soft, and I love it. It feels slightly chunky, but it's the right size. Thanks, Winnie, you're a star. So yeah, thank you so much, ladies, for these wonderful additions to the blanket. I think they are all gorgeous and make me really excited to see it come together as a whole blanket. But we don't have enough squares yet to make a blanket, so if you've been thinking about it, please, 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 you've got a whole month, longer than a month still, until the end of the CAL deadline. And yeah, if you happen to find yourself with any scrap yarn and purples or pastels, all the patterns are free and up there, and Jen and I would both massively appreciate it. We're hoping now that Christmas is over, come the sort of start of January, we're going to do a little bit of a like renewed social media push. So if you've made one and shared a picture, thank you so much. If you feel like resharing it, or my husband just rang me. Yeah, if you feel like resharing it or sharing any of the posts that I've put up, then that would be amazing. Thank you so much. I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the podcast today. So wishing you all a very happy new year and the best for the start of 2018. I will see you again next year, folks. Next year. It's on us, nearly upon us. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed me drivel on despite my cold and croaky voice about my blankets and giant, I kind of forgot he was there, giant amigurumi socks and all my new things for Christmas. I've been very lucky and very spoilt. I hope you have had some goodies too. Please do feel free to leave me a comment. Oh, as I said, yeah, if you've enjoyed and you're not a subscriber, hit the thumbs up and or subscribe. It really helps me to get the video out there and yeah, bring some new crochet lovers into our little tribe. Do we call it a tribe? I'm not sure if I'm that cool. Anyway, thank you for watching, if you're still watching, if you've made it to the end. It's been lovely to podcast again, and see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye bye, everybody. Bye.
What is it, Rosie? I don't think that's his weight bearing.
Oh no, he looks sad. Unicorn. Oh.